dry on a document that could literally fundamentally reshape the global geopolitical landscape. Today, we're unpacking the fine print of the newly signed peace deal between the United States and Iran. We're going straight to the source text to figure out what's actually happening beyond those major flashy headlines.
110. That is exactly how many days this conflict in the Middle East raged on. We're talking from the very first strikes launched by the United States and Israel on February 28th, right up to a really sudden, dramatic halt. I mean, for over 3 months, the whole world kind of just held its breath, waiting for the fallout. And now, it's abruptly been put on ice.
So, that sudden halt? Yeah, it's the result of an official, absolutely historic peace deal being signed between the US and Iran. We're going to break down the agreement that just ended this 110-day war, but honestly, more importantly, we're charting out what happens next. Because as we all know, in diplomacy, a signature is really just the opening act. Okay, part 1, a historic signing, the Versailles announcement.
The actual context of this signing is pretty fascinating. It actually went down at the stunning Palace of Versailles during a dinner with French President Emmanuel Macron, literally right after the G7 summit wrapped up. This definitely caught global observers off guard, mostly because the formal signing was originally scheduled for later in the week over in Switzerland. It seems like the sheer momentum of the G7 just completely accelerated the entire timeline.
But hey, let's cut through all the pomp and circumstance of Versailles for a second and look at the exact text. The document itself is formally known as the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding, and its absolute, non-negotiable directive, an immediate and permanent termination of military operations.
Moving on to part 2, inside the agreement, the fine print of peace.
So, after a ton of public pressure, U.S. officials actually released the precise wording of this memo during a conference call. The core mandate here demands an absolute, permanent end to military operations on all fronts, and it specifically highlights a halt to operations in Lebanon. Plus, it forces an immediate de-escalation at sea, requiring the U.S. to totally lift its naval blockade of Iran. It is, for all intents and purposes, a comprehensive freeze.
Now, this freeze requires some serious, high-stakes compromises right out of the gate. The U.S. is on the hook to completely remove its naval blockade within 30 days, and they've agreed to pull forces from Iran's vicinity. But, and this is a big but, only within 30 days of a final deal. In exchange, Iran has to guarantee the safe, unhindered passage of commercial vessels, and they are promising absolutely zero transit charges for the next 60 days. So we're seeing this synchronized step back from the brink.
Which brings us to part 3, the global reaction, optimism versus caution. When a massive deal like this drops, the immediate reactions kind of tell you everything you need to know. French President Emmanuel Macron immediately cheered the agreement, saying it paves the way for lasting peace and the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. For Western leaders, you have to remember, this isn't just about geopolitics. It's about immediate economic relief. Reopening that massive maritime choke point means stabilizing global supply chains, dropping energy markets, and ultimately, cheaper gas at the pump for us.
Meanwhile, over in Tehran, the response paints a totally different picture. Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Bakai confirmed the memo, sure, but he really pumped the brakes on the celebration. He stated quite plainly, now it is time to test the implementation of the agreement. So while the West is laser-focused on economic relief, Iran is signaling some pretty intense skepticism. The ink is dry, but they are watching the actual execution on the ground like a hawk.
And that caution sets up part 4 beautifully, the road to implementation, the 60-day clock.
Because, guys, this memorandum is basically a ticking timer. Day 0 was that signing at Versailles. Fast forward to day 30, and that is the strict deadline for the U.S. to completely lift the naval blockade and see commercial traffic restored to normal. But the ultimate pressure cooker is day 60. Both sides have exactly 2 months to forge a permanent, final peace treaty. This memo we're looking at isn't the finish line at all. It's really just a bridge.
Now there is a massive caveat buried in the fine print here. Broader U.S. troop withdrawals? Yeah, they are not happening immediately. The U.S. military footprint will remain largely right in place, as leverage. They're only agreeing to withdraw within 30 days of a fully concluded final deal. If that 60-day window closes without a permanent treaty being signed, all that military leverage is still sitting literally right on Iran's doorstep.
Which leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? The 110-day war is frozen, but will this incredibly high-stakes 60-day implementation actually hold up? Are we witnessing the dawn of a newly stabilized Middle East, or is this literally just a 60-day pause before the geopolitical powder keg ignites all over again? That is exactly what we have to watch for. Thanks so much for joining this explainer, and remember to always keep questioning the headlines.